Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Val Wilson, and I am one of the many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable 12, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers, or listeners, in all that matters. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us either by donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. So I have the banner here for Friday, January the 29th. We'll be glad to see that month behind us, 2021. Front page of the banner this week is Your Dollar Store with More has been named Business of the Year and receives recognition from the Neepawa and District Chamber of Commerce by Aaron Devereaux. The uncertainty created by COVID-19 was a tremendous challenge for every single business in Neepawa in 2020. For Karen Dick and Brenda Harbour, the owners and operators of Your Dollar Store with More, their efforts to face those challenges head on while also maintaining their support for a wide array of community organizations has been justifiably recognized. On Monday, January the 25th, during the Neepawa District Chamber of Commerce annual general meeting, Your Dollar Store with More was presented with the 2020 Business of the Year Award. Val Jarama, who nominated the business, announced the recipients to the AGM Zoom video conference. Jarama noted that during the announcement that Dick Harbour and 3 part-time staff at Your Dollar Store with More have worked extremely hard to maintain service over the course of the pandemic. She said their increased usage of social media has been helpful in direct communication with customers during provincial restrictions. Drama also lauded their continued support of worthy local causes such as the Salvation Army in these stressful times. After the announcement was made, Chamber of Commerce Office Administrator Barb Bone presented Dick and Harbour with their award. Bone also congratulated them on their leadership, dedication, commitment towards excellent customer service in the community. Karen and also for nominating them for the honor. They added that while 2020 has been a bit crazy, they remain grateful for the support they have received over the years from their very loyal customers and the community in general. So in the picture we have from far left is the Neepawa District Chamber of Commerce President, Pam Miller, the employees Deborah Kirkowicz, Christy Hiller behind the counter, and Karen and Brenda Harbour, their owners and operators of Your Dollar Store with More. Missing is Megan Wyatt Whitmore. So that's a lovely story to start end January on. So then we have a pharmacy student gets experience in Neepawa. Jordan Emerson spent 4 weeks at Harris Pharmacy recently on her first practicum placement in her Doctor of Pharmacy course at the University of Manitoba. By Kira Patterson, Neepawa Banner and Press. There was a new face behind the counter at Harris Pharmacy the last little while. Jordan Emerson, who is taking the Doctor of Pharmacy program at the University of Manitoba, was in Neepawa for 4 weeks for her first practicum placement. Emerson is familiar with the area, having growing up in Gladstone. She's always loved small town life, so her ability to get real job was one thing that drew her into the field of pharmacy. I knew I wanted to come back and work in a small town, and I also really liked healthcare. So when I was in high school for my work experience, I went and did some hours at the Gladstone Pharmacy and loved the pharmacists there and what they did. And I just went from there with it, she explained. Her placement at Harris Pharmacy can also be attributed to Emerson's desire to work in rural Manitoba. I wanted to do my placements in rural areas just to get the experience out there. And we do get to pick our top choices. And I requested Harris Pharmacy to my instructor, and she reached out to Heather Todrick, owner of Harris Pharmacy, for me. As for what a practicum placement involves, Emerson noted it is mostly geared towards getting some experience and feel for what pharmacists do day to day. Some of it is shadowing the pharmacist just to see what they do that we can't get as a student, she explained, like taking prescriptions and putting it through the computer, making sure that it's appropriate for the patient, that kind of stuff. But then there's also, from what I've learned this far, is I can go out into the aisles and help counsel people on any of the products that they are looking for out there if they have any questions. So there's a lot of trying to engage with the patients there and also figuring out the flow of the work. Emerson is in her 3rd year taking pharmacy with 2 more years to go, graduating in 2023. After that, she noted that she'd love to start her career in rural settings somewhere close to home. I'm not going to be too picky, but yeah, anywhere kind of in the Gladstone, Neepawa, Portage areas would it be ideal, she stated. Emerson added that she's open to whatever options come available in terms of what setting she'd be working in. There's even pharmacists in hospitals, so they have a whole different area that they can work within. And there's primary care pharmacists that work with the health teams and clinics, and it's actually a lot broader than what I realized going into, she expressed. That was an interesting story. So now we have some COVID-19 updates. Provincial government restricted travel between provinces. The Manitoba government has amended its public health orders to put formal restrictions on interprovincial travel to protect Manitobans from COVID-19 and to help prevent importation of possible variants from other jurisdictions. The public health orders were amended for January the 29th to specify that anyone entering Manitoba from anywhere in Canada will be required to self-isolate for 14 days. This includes those entering from northern and western Canada and from west of Terrace Bay in Ontario, which, under previous health orders, did not require self-isolation. COVID-19 fines as of January the 10th to the 17th. The latest enforcement efforts related to the province's COVID-19 restrictions have been released. And from January 18th to 24th, a total of 205 warnings and 46 tickets were issued. 183 warnings and 77 tickets last week. This week's numbers include 29 $1,296 tickets to individuals for various offenses, 16 tickets to individuals for failure to wear a mask at an indoor public place, and one $5,000 ticket to a business. Since enforcement efforts began in April, a total of 2,599 warnings and 843 tickets have been issued, resulting in more than $2.2 million in fines to businesses and individuals. Active COVID-19 case counts over the course of a recent 7-day period from Wednesday, January the 20th, to Tuesday, January the 26th, there were 91 new COVID-19 cases reported within the Prairie Mountain Health region. That's a slight increase from the 80 cases recorded last week. The total current cases in Prairie Mountain since March are 1,915, 1,658 have recovered, and 2,006 are currently active. There have been 51 deaths in the region. Brandon has had the most active cases in the region with 58, while Whitemud, which encompasses Neepawa and surrounding communities, have no active cases at this time. Provincially, the North region currently has the most active COVID-19 cases with 1,765, while Winnipeg's current cases are at 938. And just a reminder, the ad deadline is 12 noon on Tuesdays. Arts Forward asks for municipal grant support. The local cultural center makes requests to the Neepawa Town Council by Aaron Devereaux, Neepawa Banner and Press. If you're looking just at the basic financial results for Arts Forward Cultural Center in 2020, you'll likely think that they had a very good year. But a closer look, however, indicates just how impactful that a negative way COVID-19 has been to the facility. Ron Nordstrom, board chair for Arts Forward, recently made a presentation to Neepawa Town Council asking for support within the 2021 municipal budget. Last year, the local nonprofit organization received $15,000, and they are asking for the same amount in this year's budget. It's not as rosy as it appears. Nordstrom shared with Council Arts Forward's finances for the last 2 years. In 2019, income was listed at $114,738. While expenses were $126,793. That came out to a loss of $12,055. In 2020, the finances took an unusual turn, with income at $119,331 and expenses sitting at $90,466. That was a profit of $28,865. While that's a positive number for Arts Forward, it did come with several addendum attached to it, such as a reduction from 1.5 staff members to 1 full-time staff, a savings of $10,000. The full-time staff member was also laid off in December, though Arts Forward expects to be able to bring the facility manager back on full-time in the future. The receipt of COVID-19 related grants and wage subsidies from the federal and provincial government adding up to $10,000. A one-time increase to the financial commitment from the province to the summer student grant. The allocated amount received in 2020 was $7,500. Nordstrom said that while those supports are extremely helpful, they're not sustainable. This is a one-time thing, ladies and gentlemen. This is not something we anticipate going on every year, said Nordstrom. Another positive cited for 2020 was the establishment of a sponsorship program, a multi-tiered investment option for local businesses to support the facility. Nordstrom said that was able to generate about $14,000 in its first year of operation. He added, however, that these sponsorships were dependent on the facility being open and accessible to the general public. The closure of the building for months at a time has hindered it going into the new year, as many of those sponsorships have been rolled over into 2021. Nordstrom capped off his presentation to Council saying that the $15,000 request would allow Arts Forward to balance its 2021 budget, as long as there are not unexpected expenses. Council asked questions regarding the potential rehiring a part-time member and whether it would be budgeted into 2021. Nordstrom said that they have budgeted for some of that, but cannot look further until we get back to normal. Council thanked Nordstrom for the presentation and noted that it will receive consideration during the budget deliberations. Humble yourself before the Lord, and he will lift you up. James 4:10 from the New International Bible. So we have a picture that was submitted by Helen Drysdale, and it is an early storm at Thanksgiving, the weekend, closed the roads and stranded many people in October of 1959. This is taken on Hamilton Street in Neepawa. The Roxy is to the far left, and to the far right you can see the land titles office. There was a bus depot around where the telephone building was. To see more about this blizzard and others, see Helen's article on page 6. And there was a lot of snow. It covered all the cars. Beautiful picture. So we have Canada Post Has a Problem at the top by Ken Waddell, right in the center. I have no intention of causing any grief to the local post office workers. I know that they are sharing the same frustrations as everyone else. As a newspaper, we have never had anything except good service from our local post office. There's the key word, local. Local people get it. They know how to do the best for the customers, friends, neighbors, and for themselves. It's the same as any business. Local is the best service usually. It's up the ladder where the problem is happening. In some places and in some cases, Canada Post is getting slower and slower as the months go by. We get it. There's more online shopping and parcels are flooding the system. The Christmas Amazon rush was unreal. One local post office had as many as 11 forklift pallets of parcels in their back warehouse on any given day. It's not that Canada Post didn't seek out the business. They did. And it's not that they didn't see it coming. They did. The problem is they didn't prepare for it and aren't doing enough to accommodate their increased volume. It's pretty simple. If a farmer grows a bunch more grain, he hires another truck. It doesn't seem to work that way with Canada Post. They have an increased regional space, apparently that would be Brandon, where everything in rural Western Manitoba funnels through. Apparently, they may need another truck or driver or two, and you would think that any smart business person would get that looked into after being a month-long bottleneck. It used to be that first-class mail, that is letters, got priority. Well, not anymore. Parcels get priority. Due to more and more parcels and staff shortages, there were times last fall when first-class mail was as much as 4 days behind in some offices. It's understandable. If Canada Post has emailed a customer or sent them a card saying the parcel is coming, it had better get there. Even that isn't happening. There is also second-class mail and third-class mail. Your newspaper is third-class mail. So guess where it gets left on the priority list? We get comments like this. I have been finding mail deliver very spotty and slow. My last hydro bill arrived the day it was due. I ordered a medical appliance from Winnipeg 5 business days ago, and it was listed as still in transit on Friday. Flyers either don't come at all, or after the sales are already on. Is this a countrywide problem or just here? I get your paper at my home in Winnipeg, and it's 2 weeks late. Well, I can attest to that, as we subscribe to a number of papers, and it's not unusual to get 2 issues at the same time, one a week old and one 2 weeks old. My parcel is a week late. We have experienced that personally, as we are awaiting a vital piece of equipment. Canada Post needs to listen to its local staff and customers. Those two groups have the answers on how to fix Canada Post, but the corporation has to be willing to listen. I think they still have 11 regional vice presidents, and I'll bet each one earned more than anybody reading this column. Apparently, they aren't bright enough to fix the issue. They also know that they have a monopoly in first-class letter mail, and by virtue of remote and rural operations, they have a monopoly on all classes of mail. Canada Post's very poor corporate attitude is hurting the Canadian economy and, at best, annoying their customers, who want to wait weeks for parcels or days or even weeks for a letter or a newspaper. The mail was faster when the steam trains hammered it across the country day and night. I have no doubt Canada Post needs an overhaul, starting at the top. I feel sorry for the local post staff who have to work very long hours, sometimes without sufficient help, and occasionally receive customer abuse. Trust me, it's rarely, if ever, the local postal workers' problems. As far as I know, when we deliver papers directly to the individual post offices, they put them into the boxes quite quickly. The problem comes in that papers are, for the most part, delivered to one post office, and then they go to Brandon for sorting. At best, it is overnight, but when they get plugged up in Brandon, the papers and parcels get delayed and left in the warehouse. There's only so much room on the truck, I guess. It is frustrating for everyone, but there's not much we can do about it. Be Crazy Enough to Change the World by Rita Friesen. Column is Homebodies. People who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones that do. Lovely quote, no author credited, wish it was mine. Now, as much as at any time in history of the earth, we need crazy people. I feel a tad preachy today. I have been reflecting on this world, my world, and we have been bombarded with the term unprecedented. The urgency and despair of last year, and I'm thinking of the virus, is unprecedented for this generation. It is my opinion, and you are entitled to yours, that we feel the restraints and unpleasantness so sharply because we, in this first world country, mostly entitled. For many of us, and if we compare our lives to those in refugee camps or war zones, most of us are accustomed to our needs being met and many of our wishes granted. Too many have not felt a need to change the world or even their world. This, thankfully, is changing. I have watched and participated in incredible acts of kindness extended to our friends, family, and community this past year. Our eyes have been opened to the loneliness of not only our seniors, but also those who live alone. More hours have been spent on the telephone, more hours have been spent on social media and FaceTime calls. More time has been spent connecting with others. And this is a good thing. Truthfully, these acts are offered with no expectations, no ulterior motives. Generous gifts for many seniors, for example, high school students collecting items for the food bank. Truthfully, these caring acts are changing the world, our world. People crazy enough to think they can change the world, their world. I have taken to following the morning message from our MLA, and I'm encouraged by her courage, her determination to encourage to make changes in a positive direction. I watched the inauguration of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, political leaders, crazy enough to think they can craze the world. Maybe it be so. Watching all this and more, I am personally challenged to find ways to positively show my craziness. For me, the key is to define the world. As a parent and a grandparent, and now a great-grand, it is safe to say that my family is my world. And as a citizen of a caring and supportive faith community, it is safe to say this too, is my world. Keep expanding that to our community and our country, keeping your eye on the fact that each unit is comprised of individuals. So many of the acts of caring and kindness that we extend, we do not recognize as the precious gift they truly are. I know that scattered over the prairie provinces are individuals that are warmed and comforted by dozens of quilts created by me, family members, friends, and strangers. Notes of encouragement, letters to elected officials, a clipped cartoon sent to a favorite recipient. For many of us, we don't think our words and actions are changing the world, but they are changing the life of one individual, the core unit of the world. Be crazy. And then we have a column by Neil Stroshine, Faithfully Yours, called Pillars of Faith. The best piece of advice I ever received came from a most likely unlikely source at the time when I needed it the most. It was contained in a very short statement, just 9 words. 9 words that changed my life. Cling to your faith. It will see you through. Well, in the days that followed, when I lived through some of the most difficult times I have ever had to endure, those words not only changed my life, but on it at least one occasion saved it. And since last March, when the first of COVID-19 restrictions were put in place, they have helped me find the encouragement, hope, and confidence I and those I love have desperately needed. When challenges come, I take comfort in 3 facts of life that will never change. First, God knows all about it. Unlike you and me, God has perfect knowledge of all that has happened, all that is happening, and all that will happen from now until the day when time, as we know it, will be no more. Nothing that happens to any of us ever takes God by surprise. He knew all about it long before this world was ever created, and so he is fully aware of the challenges you and your family are facing right now. He knows who is ill, who is battling a life-threatening disease, who needs work, and who may be battling physical or emotional problems that no one else knows about. God is with us all day, every day, and he is fully aware of every challenge that we face. Second, every experience is a learning experience. I often tell people that I come by my gray hairs honestly. I am to blame for every one of them. But I also remember the many lessons I learned during those hard times. I would not wish them on anyone. I do not want to go through them again, but I would not trade them for anything. They have made me the person that I am today, and for that, I will always be grateful. St. Paul, Romans 8:28, assures us that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Every life experience helps us identify bad attitudes and habits, remove them and replace them with positive ones. These changes help us become people whose attitudes and actions encourage those who are going through similar experiences. Life won't always be fair. We will still face hard times, but thanks to our faith, we can face them with dignity and optimism. Third, learn to live one day at a time. This was by far the hardest lesson I have had to learn. I like to plan ahead, work ahead, and be in control of where, how, and with whom I spend my time. About 15 years ago, when my wife had her stroke, I had to start living from day to day. The change hasn't been easy to make, but it's been well worth the effort. In his Sermon on the Mount, Jesus assures us that our Heavenly Father knows what we will need for this day and for the days ahead. He tells us not to worry about tomorrow. Let God worry about that. Just focus on today and use the opportunities we are given to show and share God's love, acceptance, and forgiveness with everyone we meet. May this faith be your faith in this new year. And then we have an observation by Addie Oberlin. During these first 2 months of 2021, many people are mourning the loss of a loved one in their family. Some were not able to say goodbye to their family member because of COVID-19 restrictions, which is very sad. This week, the hymn, Great is Thy Faithfulness by Thomas Chisholm, has been in my mind quite a bit. Pets and friends can be faithful, but up to a point. If I would let my dog go off a leash and she sees the neighbor's dog, she'll run and will not be the faithful to me. Friends come and go sometimes, and when we lose contact, we will never hear from them again. However, God is faithful at all times, in all circumstances, and during our whole life, if we are willing to commit our life to him and follow Jesus. David talks about God's faithfulness 37 times in Psalms. He talks about reliance on God's faithfulness in Psalm 26:3 and tells us in Psalm 119:90, your God's faithfulness continues through all generations. We will have peace when we can accept God's faithfulness and love each day of our life. Continuing on page 5 of the Neepawa Banner Press, we have the thumbs up and thumbs down column. And we have the first thumbs up is a thumbs up, a big thanks to Recheck Pharmacy and staff for their expertise and well-managed business over the years. They give an exceptional friendly service. I think it's Rycheck. They give an exceptional friendly service and are very helpful with doing doctor's contacts, making up prescriptions, and offering good advice on meds. It's just wonderful to have such a business in a small town like McCreary. Thank you so much, from Bill and Gail Sorrell from McCreary, Manitoba. And we have a thumbs up to the Neepawa Banner Press and will become a very informative and enjoyable paper to read. Ken Waddell and his crew do a wonderful job to service Neepawa and a wide surrounding area of towns. I look forward to getting your free gift in the mail each week. Keep up the good work. Many thanks, from Bill Sorrell from McCreary. Well, that's good to hear. And here's a big surprise that it's going to shock the town of Neepawa. We should be putting on a big party for her if we could. Thumbs up for Diane Miker, who after 40 years of delivering the Winnipeg Free Press to her many customers, has decided it was time to turn the paper route over to someone new. Maybe you remember seeing her pulling her wagon over town, delivering her papers, rain, snow, or shine. Happy retirement, Diane, from your friend, Jean Bocart, Neepawa, Manitoba. Well, congratulations, Diane, on your retirement. And now we have a letter by Dan Mazer, Member of Parliament, Dauphin Swan River. It was the last day before Parliament would recess for the holiday break, and Justin Trudeau decided to sneak in an announcement that would be a slap in the face for every rural Canadian. And I'm guessing he chose this day to avoid any confrontation in the House of Commons due to a lack of confidence in his policy proposal. Accompanying Trudeau for his announcement was one of his newest cabinet ministers, Stephen Guilbeault, a man who was arrested for scaling the CN Tower 340 meters above ground to display a banner stating that Canada was a climate killer. An interesting background for a high-ranking government official representing our country, but I digress. Qualities aside, the substance of the announcement was that really slapped rural Canada in the face. Justin Trudeau's plans to raise the carbon tax from the current price of $30 per ton to a whopping $170 per ton. That's an increase of over 500%. An analysis from industry experts stated that this policy would increase gas prices by nearly 40 cents a litre. You may remember that Justin Trudeau and his then Minister of Environment, Catherine McKenna, promised throughout their 2019 re-election campaign not to raise the carbon tax above current thresholds, but if there is anything we have learned from this government is that promises only last as long as deemed necessary to win an election. I am upset because I know the negative impact this increase will have put on rural Canadians, and I proudly represent. I have said it before and I will say it again. A carbon tax does not work for rural Canada. It may work for those downtown Toronto that can bus to work, walk for groceries, or send their kids on a train to gymnastics class. But it does not work for our farmers and agricultural sector. It does not work for families who drive their children to 4-H meetings and hockey practice. It does not work for those who drive to town for work and groceries. Unfortunately, Justin Trudeau's government fails to understand that a one-size-fits-all approach does not work in a country of diverse geography and demographics like Canada. The underlying concept of a carbon tax is to change an individual's behavior, to change their lifestyle choices. However, it doesn't take an economist to know that certain behavior can't easily be changed. Consuming fuel is a behavior that many rural Canadians have no control over. We drive to Brandon, Yorkton, Winnipeg often. We drive pickup trucks that are essential for our lifestyle. We don't have public transportation for obvious reasons. However, few people complain about these notions because we are all rural Canadians. This is the way of life we proudly chose. Few countries care about their natural environment as much as Canada. We take pride in showcasing and conserving our mountain ranges, oceans, lakes, forests, and wildlife. Rural Canadians especially cherish our natural landscapes and have a deep sense of obligation to conserve our wildlife and preserve our ecosystems. Very few Canadians have a more profound admiration and respect for the environment than do rural Canadians. The government must develop a better environmental policy that works for rural Canada, whether that be implementing ecological goods and service program, conserving natural spaces and ecosystems, promoting clean technology development, or exporting our natural resources, which are produced with the highest environmental standards in the world. These are all better solutions than a carbon tax. We need to focus on uniting together to unleash innovation instead of burdening individuals with an unaffordable expenses for behaviors that they have little control over. Increasing gas prices by 40 cents a litre is not the solution for rural Canada. It never will be. So then we have, out of Helen's kitchen, blizzards. Helen Drysdale. Prairie people have learned to handle the cold, but a winter's blizzard is altogether a different story. A blizzard is falling snow or new snow with high winds, reducing visibility to 400 meters or less, and wind speeds of 40 kilometers an hour or more, lasting several hours or days. Nowadays, blizzard warnings are issued by Environment and Climate Change Canada. We get reports on our phones, TVs, radios, giving us time to prepare. And we know our weather, and we can plan our day. This was not so in days gone by. Life was difficult enough in winter without a dreaded blizzard. Heavy snow, strong winds, dangerous whiteout conditions often meant loss of life for those caught traveling. There are stories of travelers being caught in a blizzard. It's a long line. And turning their sleigh over for shelter or lying beside the horse for warmth to survive until the next blizzard was over. On occasion, the life of both man and beast were lost. In the schools, teachers generally kept the children at school, as sending them home often resulted in unfortunate endings. In the fall, the farmers would tie ropes from the house to the barn to find their way back to the barn, to care for the livestock and find their way back to school in a blizzard. The January 1947 blizzard was prairie-wide, from Winnipeg to Calgary. Towns and railways were buried. The snow and wind continued for 10 days, burying a train in a kilometer-long snowdrift. It was the worst blizzard in Canadian railroad history, and some rail lines and roads remained plugged with snow until spring. The countryside was just one big snowdrift. People shoveled snow tunnels to get out of their homes. This blizzard cost 76 deaths. Thanksgiving 1959 saw a long-lived blizzard in the area of Manitoba. It started with rain on Tuesday that turned into snow and continued on until late Saturday. Over 3,000 telephone poles in rural Manitoba were down, as well as many power lines. This storm had the worst timing because of a wet fall. Many crops remained in the fields. Neepawa's agricultural representative used a plane to assess the damage to crops and herds of cattle. At Colorado Low on March 4, 1966, brought in a blizzard that was one of the worst to hit the province of Manitoba. The storm, with up to 120 km/h winds, dumped 26.6 centimeters of snow in Winnipeg in one day, stopping buses and cars from running, leaving people stranded in department stores, restaurants, and in their cars. Snowmobiles took doctors, nurses, and other emergency people to work, as streets had up to 12 feet of snow in some places. The storm on December the 28th, 1978, came up suddenly and left travelers on the highways stranded in their cars due to snowdrifts and poor visibility. That night, Bill and Fiona Fraser of Franklin hosted 62 travelers and 7 dogs from Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario, and Manitoba that were rescued from stranded cars. It was a wall of sleeping arrangements, including a baby under the Christmas tree. Breakfast used 5 dozen eggs, 4 loaves of bread, 3 pounds of coffee. Living by the highway brought them stranded people many times, and they were always gracious hosts. The spring storm of April 5th to 7th, 1997, dumped nearly 50 centimeters of snow on Winnipeg, beating out the 1966 and 1986 records. The storm set records for most precipitation in a 24-hour period, closing the airports, highways, knocking out hydro and phone service in many areas. The blizzard left so much snow that when spring came, the Red River rose by 4 feet, initiating a flood. The flood of 1997 was called the flood of the century and caused more than $500 million in damages. March 9th, 2017 brought a blizzard lasting 31 hours with high gusts and 41.1 centimeters of snow. Hundreds were trapped in their cars along the highways, spending the night in their cars, including 6 people who got stuck north of Thompson for 3 days before being rescued. 3,600 customers in western Manitoba lost power, including Neepawa. When it's cold and blustery outside, it's a good day to make homemade soup. So if you've got your pen and paper ready, we have cream of chicken and vegetable soup. Your ingredients will be 1 frying chicken cut up, 2 liters of water, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, 1 bay leaf, 2 cloves of garlic which have been minced, 2 onions finely diced, 2 stalks of celery sliced, 4 medium carrots sliced, 4 medium potatoes diced, 1 cup frozen peas, 1 tablespoon dried parsley, 1 tablespoon Mrs. Dash, and 1 can of evaporated milk, and 4 tablespoons of flour. And your method: cover your chicken with the water. Add your salt, pepper, and bay leaf. Cover and bring to a boil. Turn down and simmer for about 1 1/2 hours or until chicken is tender. And I know that if you leave it at a rolling boil, it's going to get murky. If you just turn it down and let it sit, it will be a nice clear broth. Remove the chicken. Remove any fat from the broth, or you could leave it, probably tastes better. Add the remaining vegetables and herbs and cook until vegetables are just tender. Meanwhile, remove the chicken from the bones and cut into pieces. Add the chicken to the soup. Mix the flour and milk together and add to the soup. Simmer until it thickens, stirring occasionally. Sounds great, Helen. Well, I'm going to skip this week's Spruce Plains RCMP report and move on to the looking back. And it starts, by Casper Warenhan, Neepawa Banner Press staff. And we are at 110 years ago, Friday, January the 27th, 1911. The CNR has issued orders to conductors to carry no drunks at risk of dismissal from service. 100 years ago, Friday, January the 28th, 1921. Only 1% of Ontario's hydroelectric current is used in rural communities. A policeman took an aged prisoner from Elphinstone to Minnedosa yesterday. It is said that the prisoner is 80 years of age and is accused of trying to poison his father, aged over 100. The latter, it appears, provided for a bequest of $2,000 to the former, who got weary of waiting on nature to take its course. Wonder how that turned out. 90 years ago, January 27th, 1931. A man by the name of Gus Cross is under arrest in Winnipeg, charged from being an agent of a job ring, which swindles money out of workers under the pretense of finding employment. 80 years ago, Friday, January the 31st, 1941. 250 officers and Air Force men arrived in Carberry on Sunday. It was learned recently that most of the entire Jewish population of West and East Flanders and the city of Antwerp have been sent to concentration camps. 70 years ago, January 25th, 1951. Spring Hill, Mrs. Verla Simon and Irene Kasperk went to Winnipeg and secured employment at the Canadian Wheat Board. 60 years ago, and that Mrs. Verla Simon is my aunt and Irene Kasperk is a cousin. Figure that out, eh? 60 years ago, Friday, January 27th, 1961, Kelwood. 30 rinks started play in the Men's Open Bonspiel, which started here on Monday. This year, they are playing for the Gallagher MacLeod Trophy in the first event and the L.W. Baker Memorial in this second event. Margaret Lawrence, author of This Side Jordan, will be well remembered here as the former Peggy Wemyss. Born in 1926, she is the daughter of the late Mr. and Mrs. Robert H. Wemyss. Her grandparents, the late Mr. and Mrs. John Simpson, and the late Mr. and Mrs. John Wemyss. were prominent in the business and social life of the town during their many years' residence here. Graduating in 1947 with a BA degree in the United College, Winnipeg, she married Jack Lawrence, a civil engineer that same year. His work substantially took them to England, British Somaliland, and Ghana. They have 2 children, Jocelyn, 8, born in England, and David, 5, born in Africa. They now live at 3556 West 21st Avenue in Vancouver, BC. It was during their residence in Africa that Mrs. Lawrence was inspired to write about the people of the land, of their terrific sense of humor, zest for life. The author hopes to see again that land of hope, growth, and change. Her collection of Somali folk tales and poetry, A Tree for Poverty, was published by the Somaliland government in 1954. She has also had short stories published in Story, Queensland's Quarterly Prism, Tamarack Review, and Winter Tales No. 6. She is now engaged in writing a book reviews for the Vancouver Sun and marketing English essays for the University of British Columbia. Mrs. Lawrence has dedicated her first book to her mother, Margaret C. Wemyss, who was for many years librarian of the Neepawa Library. To her mother and to Miss Mildred Musgrove, who taught English to her in high school, she received her first literary criticism and knowledge of writing standards. 50 years ago, Thursday, January the 28th, 1971. Neepawa and District Chamber of Commerce is looking forward to an interesting year with the addition of 2 ladies, a traditionally all-male executive. Mrs. Willard Vivian and Mrs. Doris Murrays were among those named during the annual dinner meeting held at the Legion Hall Friday night. Other executive members, including Reverend Gordon Fulford, Harold Middlemass, Norman Hassick, Ron Miller, Elmer Wiebe, John Wilkin, Roy McGilvery, Jim Finlayson, Art Harris, and Albin Gillis. Among 98 graduates from St. Boniface General Hospital School of Nursing, which held its graduation ceremonies on Friday, January 22nd, were Mary Branson and Marlene Lewandowski of Neepawa, Gary Jardine of Brookdale, Shirley Prodzik of Eden, and Valerie Bouchaw of Plymouth. The St. Boniface Hospital was established in 1871 by the Grey Nuns. It was a 4-bed hospital overlooking the Red River, which is the same site of the present large modern hospital recognized as one of the North America's leading heart surgery centers. Note, according to the Canadian Encyclopedia, Grey Nuns refers to 6 distinct Roman Catholic religious communities of women. The origin of these communities can be traced to the Sisters of Charity of the Hospital Général de Montréal, founded by Marie Marguerite de Youville in the mid-18th century. The encyclopedia states that this association was formed in secret because new religion communities would not be officially founded in New France at that time. Existing communities came from France and relied on the king for funding. Under the circumstances, it would not have been proper to ask the king for money to start a new one. De Youville and her sisters lived at Le Revere House on Notre Dame Street in Montreal, where they received, fed, and sheltered all those facing difficulties. This is deemed significant because at the time, the General Hospital only welcomed men and no other options were available for others who needed help. The association would take on management of the bankrupt General Hospital in 1747, recognizing it into hospice for the elderly, disabled, foundlings, orphans, and women who had sexual relations or had given birth out of wedlock. The brothers who had formerly been running the hospital were quite popular with the public, resulting in the general population resenting the change and mocking the sisters as No idea. In French, gris translates to both gray and drunk. So while the mocking translated to gray nuns, it also meant tipsy women. This was meant to be a reference to Jovel's late husband, who was a bootlegger. They ended up keeping the nickname Soeurs Gris, Grey Nuns, as a reminder of their origins. Several businesses, including farms, an orchard, a mill, and a bakery, were managed by them to finance their work, and during the 1755 smallpox epidemic and the 7 Years' War, the institution truly became a hospital. Okay. 40 years ago, January 29th, 1981, Level 3 students in the construction course at Neepawa Collegiate built a cottage as a major project for their first term. The building employs all aspects of construction, from blueprints to utilization of several types of doors, windows, rafters, and siding. 30 years ago, January 29th, 1991, a Canada Post spokesperson says closing the post office in Kelwood and opening a retail postal outlet was the result of a natural opportunity. We're doing conversions when a natural opportunity arises, said Christine Desnoy. Communities are assessed on a case-by-case basis for conversations. Desnoy says the natural opportunity came with the retirement of the postmistress. Instead of hiring to fill the post, Canada Post moved its postal operations into Cadet's Lucky Dollar store. Customers began receiving their mail service through the store on January the 16th. Most businesses, Neepawa businesses owners, say that they were prepared for the January 1st arrival of the goods and service tax, and that while customers complain about the tax, they're still buying. 30 years ago, we have had a goods and service tax, eh? 20 years ago, Monday, January 29th, 2001. While the Marquette RHA directors were being petitioned to reconsider the location of a new personal care home in Neepawa, Mayor Ken Waddell was busy backtracking on the controversial issue, saying that the CN site was indeed available, but CN was willing to negotiate only if the property were the top choice for the care home. Although CN would have no way of knowing how many sites were under consideration, Waddell said the site selection committee chose not to enter negotiations with CN because it didn't want to limit its options to that one site. Family named Commercial Cattle Producers of the Year by Aaron Devereaux, Neepawa Banner and Press. A decades-long commitment to the cattle industry was recently recognized as the Atkinson family has been named the 2020 Commercial Cattle Producer of the Year. The award, handed out by the Manitoba Angus Association, was presented Tony and Sue Atkinson, their son Matthew and daughter-in-law Kate. Combined, both families run about 350 cows in their operations, which are located about 3 miles apart from one another in the Neepawa area. They are committed to their breed. Manitoba Angus Association President Dallas Johnson told the Banner and Press that the selection of the Atkinson family was a relatively easy choice for the organization to make this past year. He said that their ongoing commitment to the Angus breed over the years has been unquestioned and deserved to be recognized. A history in Angus. In 1990, Tony and Sue Atkinson, along with their 4 children, moved to the Neepawa area from England. And from the start of their time in Canada, they ran a mixed commercial herd as part of their diversified farm. Following downsizing during the BSE crisis of 2006, Tony and Sue purchased 50 commercial black Angus heifers. That same year, their son Matthew and his now wife Kate, who moved to the area from Vancouver, purchased a farm about 3 miles from theirs. From the original 50 heifers, Tony and Sue Atkinson were able to utilize black Angus and horned Hereford bulls with the goal of producing quality black Angus and black baldy commercial females. Today, almost all of the cattle in their herd can be traced back to those heifers. Matthew and Kate, meanwhile, purchased many of their initial heifers from Tony and Sue. In the subsequent years, they have now been able to grow their herd while retaining high-quality animal stock produced by their own program. The two farms have been able to work together over the years to better utilize genetics and grazing at different times of the year. The goal being to produce high-quality females with good longevity while improving their land and soils for the next generation. Tony Atkinson told the Banner Press that they were honored to be nominated and ultimately recognized in this manner. He said the family has had great success with the Angus breed. We've set up this Angus and Angus cross herd because they are such a versatile and hardy breed, and it works well, really well for the system we use. We are totally on a forage system, grazing as long as we can, and the Angus really blend themselves to that operation, said Atkins. Matthew and Kate echoed similar sentiments, thanking the Manitoba Angus Association for their acknowledgement. We are greatly honored that Dallas Johnson felt that we are a worthy candidate and nominated our family for this award. It's especially meaningful as it honors multi-generations of the family working together to continuously improve both of our herds, said Matthew and Kate. Some good pictures there. We also have a very happy 90th birthday to our mom, grandma, and great-grandma, Ann Dole. May your day be just wonderful as the person that you are. May God bless you and grant you all your dreams. Due to COVID restrictions, we will have family, friends, and celebrate at a later date. With our love, Earl, Eileen, Brad, Edie, and families. Laura Denbo commits to Oregon State. NACI track athlete will compete in PAC 12 conference by Aaron Devereaux. The incredible accomplishments of Neepawa's Laura Denbo have netted the 17-year-old a spot on the Pac-12 Conference's premier track and field programs. Denbo, who is currently finishing up grade 12 at the Neepawa Collegiate Institute, NACI, has committed to Oregon State University. As part of her post-secondary opportunity, she will be a member of the Oregon State Beavers track and field team, competing in both high jump and triple jump. Denbo has competed on a regional, provincial, and national stage as both a member of the NACI Tigers track team and Prairie Storm Athletics. Over the years, she has consistently been one of the top-ranked high jumpers in her age group in all of Canada and has also broken provincial indoor high jump records. Those efforts have earned her several accolades from both Athletics Manitoba and Sport Manitoba. Denbo was also named the Brandon Sons 2018 H.L. Krug Crawford Memorial Award winner. Denbo said that she can't wait for this new challenge of competing for Oregon State in the upcoming PAC 12 track season. I have had a dream of competing in the PAC 12 for quite a while now. It offers the academic program I aspire to take, and it has a beautiful campus. A great location with the mountains, coasts, and Portland all nearby, said Denbo. One of the main attractions, though, is certainly the depth of the jumps program. I will have many talented training partners, which is rare as most schools only carry a few jumpers on their rosters. While there are no official visits permitted in 2020, as outlined by the NCAA, Denbo has been able to take virtual tours of the facility. She said the White Track and Field Center and P. Wayne Valley Strength and Conditioning Sports Center are top-tier facilities. As for the years of dedication to this point, Denbo was quick to share thanks with all of those who aided her on this journey. I would love to give a shout out to my very supportive family and friends, my teammates, and to Bryce Koshinsley for finding interest in the sport, and to my coach, Ming Pu Wu, for the excellent coaching and guidance over the years, said Denbo. The current plan is for Denbo to head off to Oregon State University in the fall. The Pac-12 track and field season runs each year from January to May. Thank you for being part of our Read the Banner Press. Have a good week. See all you next week. Thanks.